Hey, I'm Anfa. Ardour 7 has been released today. It's official, it's stable, it's here. And I have it open, so let's do this. Ardour 7, more blank than frank. I don't have too much to say right now. This is just a very short stream to announce that to everybody who has possibly missed the memo. Not long ago, I've been hosting a live stream with Paul Davis, the creator of Ardour, and he's explained a lot of interesting things, and we've demonstrated a lot of interesting things about Ardour 7 in that live stream interview. So if you want to see more, go watch that. I'm going to link it. And yeah, there's also a lengthy article on the blog, Ardour website. I'm going to link this as well, where you can read about all the new features. The most notable one is Ardour now has live looping or clip launching. So this is kind of like Paul Davis is here and he says, "It's gonna crash!" I'm prepared for that. Actually, I crashed it already. Don't worry. I'll try not to crash it, though. Yeah, so Ardour now has clip launching similar to Ableton Live and Bitwig, Digital Performance and Logic, etc. And so this is something very new, very different, and very interesting, because Ardour previously has not been a tool I would ever use for live performances. You could try, but it wasn't really suited for that. But with this feature, actually a feature set, it could become a feasible way to perform on stage. And I am really excited to dive deep into this and see what can I do. Ardour now also ships a bunch of CC0 licensed loops, so you can construct various beats and play with the Q launching, clip launching, Qs. You can play with that because inside Ardour you can download a bunch of loop libraries that are created by artists who have agreed to release them under the Creative Commons 0 license, which means public domain, which also means you can do whatever you want. You don't need to credit anyone and care about any royalties or something. So like regular stuff, like with proprietary DAWs, if you buy a DAW and it comes with stuff, you know you can use it and without any trouble. And it's the same with Ardour. The only thing is Ardour is free and open source, and this is all community sourced and provided by the generosity of these artists. So because it's also community sourced, if you're an artist, you want to make some loops, have at it. Have your name in the list. Yep. Also, you can sequence the cues you've made, so you can actually record your live performances. I believe they are prepared for I don't know, Ableton Push 2 controller? Maybe that. It's an 8x8 pad clip launcher controller. So it's this feature is kind of built around this concept. So you can perform live and record your actions and then play them back from the timeline, adjust them, and yeah, lots of crazy things. Wow, Chris from Air Windows is here as well. Awesome. A huge thing that I have been waiting for the most is internal time representation. I'm going to read it out for you. Ardour 7.0 is built around a completely new and totally different representation of time than previous versions. Internally, the program has the concept of two different time domains, audio time and musical time. Every representation of position and duration has a defined domain. When you move an object by 4 bars, it moves precisely 4 bars. Not the best representation of 4 bars in either samples or seconds. A parameter control point that is 4 beats after the start of a region is exactly 4 beats after the start of the region, not an approximation of that in audio time. yeah, my biggest gripe with Ardour has been flaky Midi and trouble that were coming from issues with how the internal time representation has been done previously. So this is, for me, it's one of the most exciting features, even though it's way down on the list. But this means I expect that most of the trouble I've had working with Midi in Ardour, which is not the workflow. The workflow is, you can learn the workflow with the timeline, with the piano roll that is embedded into your timeline tracks. You can learn that. I learned that. It's really not that a problem, not that big of a deal. I stopped longing for a piano roll. I probably would have trouble adjusting to a separate piano roll window right now because I've been working in Ardour so long. But the fact that you make something and notes disappear, or they don't play but they draw, or they draw but they don't play, or they don't draw but play, or you copy a region and somehow one of the kick drums at the first beat of the clip just doesn't play, or whatever. So this kind of stuff was very annoying and very, yeah, just annoying. I mean, you could get stuff done. I've been doing stuff done for years using this, and many other people, if you're frequenting my monthly live streams every first Sunday, you've heard many tracks, electronic tracks made with Ardour already. So it has been usable, but now hopefully it's gonna be usable and not frustrating at times, which is really great. I have some interesting things in the chat, so I'm gonna see it. Yeah, Paul Davis says, we want your loops too, everyone. So, yeah. A question from Tony Link is, it's crashing when I open a 6.9 project with some automations, but the annoying MIDI bugs are gone for me. Paul says, we always aim for backwards compatibility. Yep. Another feature is ripple modes. So now we have 3 ripple edit modes. Before there was a 1 ripple mode, and now there's a couple, and these have been demonstrated during the live interview with Paul. The community has kindly provided timestamps, so you can just, you know, find the stuff that is interesting you and jump to that part of this lengthy interview, because it's 3 hours long, plus 30 minutes of warm-up. So I'm not going to cover any of that. Mixer scenes is you can pretty much just save presets of how your mixer is set up with plugin parameters, as long as they are automatable, because this is the stuff that Ardour has access to. How your faders are positioned, what is muted, etc. Because we can like snapshot your mixes and then come back to them easily to like try out different things, I guess. MIDI editing, oh yes. By default, copies of MIDI regions are now unlinked. Yes! Finally! This was such a pitfall for new users. Like, it was one of the first things I always did after a fresh Ardour installation on a machine that didn't have any configuration left, was make the MIDI region copies unlinked. Because what it used to do is you made a MIDI region, you copy it some more, and then you change one of the copies. And everything else changes as well. And you're like, 2 minutes later, you're trying to do something else, and it's like, oh wait, why is this different? So thank you for making unlinked copies at default. That's really appreciated. A new keyboard bindings for note length control, combinations of comma, dot, left arrow, right arrow, and various modifiers, which we hope you'll find trivial to remember once you've used them for a short while. When transposing, expand MIDI stream view note range when as necessary, so the notes do not vanish. Scroll while in internal edit mode with no note selection. Will scroll the note range. Normal canvas scroll can be accessed in this mode via primary, press tertiary scroll, Control-Shift on Linux Windows, Command-Shift on macOS. Simple click on region in internal edit draw mode selects region. Fix MIDI note, copy plus paste, and duplicate regions. Provide a toolbar menu for explicitly notes. Select note length, channel, and velocity. MIDI draw, note length auto, what the hell? Note length auto, wow, means use the grid for note length. Yeah, that makes sense. previous behavior, prior behavior. MIDI regions can now be combined like audio regions. Note, however, that there is no uncombine operation. All right. MIDI regions are now opaque by default. So now, previously, if you layered multiple MIDI regions, they would add up. So you could have, you know, a kick drum on one MIDI region and your snare drum on another, and you can layer them, and they would play both kick and snare. Now, only the top one will be played by default. You can always toggle that using Alt-0 hotkey on your, like, on your keyboard. So if I S to split, so now this is opaque. If I hit Alt-0, I should show my, now this is transparent, so it's gonna play both this and that. Layered. And so by default, audio regions were opaque and MIDI regions were transparent. Now both are opaque by default, so yeah, you can just change this with Alt-0, or there is edit the gain opaque, yeah, and you have the hotkeys here, Alt-0. Blah, 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 blah. What's next? Oh, what happened? Ardour did crash. I didn't even do anything. Yeah, 7.0 stable release, everybody. No, seriously, there's gonna be, of course, bugs, because this is such a huge release. There's so many new things, so testing, reporting issues, that is certainly very welcome. Go to ardour.org, just go to the community forums, you can talk about that. Yeah, Paul Davis says, crash! Yeah, you named it. You called it, Paul. And just be civilized. Remember that this is community-driven software. Yeah. Q will quantize selected nodes if there are any, rather than the entire region if there are not. Much better visibility for MIDI node velocity bar. Control D in edit mode now duplicates selected nodes. Yes! This used to duplicate the region, which was very weird. Not an expected way of working. Delete nodes in draw edit mode with the middle button. Yes! Great, now this is consistent with how you operate with regions. Awesome. Enforce a minimum length when drawing MIDI notes. Yeah, that's good, because you can't make an infinitely short MIDI note, which then is invisible, and it plays note on and note off at the same time, and it can do weird things, and it's hard to debug. I mean, debug is the programmer's term for find what's causing the problem and remove that problem. When using unlinked MIDI region copies, the copies use a full-length version of the underlying MIDI file. In the earlier versions, the copy would get a truncated version of the MIDI file. Yes! That's so good. All right, yeah. So it was like, you have a beat. I mean, I synthesize everything, so I always have my beats in MIDI. NG on kick. And you have a beat and you want to make a break or slice it or make a transition, whatever. So you copy your bars, copy your regions, you slide them up, and then you want to copy some more, and then you like edit and you move the start and end points, and you realize that your notes are missing. So this fixes that, which is great. I really don't know why it wasn't done like that. I think it was more like an omission. I don't think it was done for saving disk space sake, because that would probably not save too much. But I'm very happy that's changed. When nudging nodes, if nudge clock is 0, use main grid to determine distance. And nudging is an option where you can just push something forward and back in time on the timeline using a certain key. And you can also precisely enter the increments of nudging. MIDI stem export. Woo! Ardour has long allowed stem exports, 1 file per track, for audio, but 7.0 brings the arrival of stem exports for MIDI tracks also. If you use complex multi-region arrangements of MIDI, this is one way to generate a single SMF file for each track. Oh man, that's so cool. This means that now you can, like, if you want someone using a different DAW to remix your track. You can provide them with audio stems, but also MIDI stems, which means they can just replace your synths with something else and like do much more, and without you having to spend an hour just trying to do it manually and doing a bad job out of it. The return of free sound. Once again, Ardour can be used to directly search and use nearly 600,000 samples hosted by the Freesound project. Freesound changed their login process several years ago, but we have finally updated our code to follow those changes. You will need your own Freesound account. That has been the case always. And to tell Ardour a special login code that Freesound will give you the first time you try to download within Ardour. After that, you can browse and import Freesound samples as if they were on your local hard drive. This is amazing for film score, for like making audio for film and games, because Freesound, if you search for Creative Commons 0, actually I think they're listed like PD, which is kind of this is PD, which I guess stands for public domain, but in the loop downloader, it was listed as CC0. So I think it would be good to make it show CC0 here as well, so it's consistent between the two interfaces for downloading media, because it's the same thing, it's the same license. We've also added user configurable size for the amount of locally cached Freesound samples and a way to filter searches by license type. Filtering by license type is crucial because I only use Creative Commons 0 licensed sounds for my work to ensure I'm not like violating anybody's copyright. And when I started using Freesound extensively in work, making sound effects for video games, I have also asked the Freesound staff to relicense all of my files to CC0, so I contribute to the pool of freely and openly available audio resources that you can now just download inside of Ardour right away. You don't even need a web browser. I mean, you need it to log in and authenticate, but then you don't need it, which is really awesome. And I think it's also great because you can just, stay focused on your stuff and not lose what you've been doing. I/O plugins. Thanks to some work carried out by Harrison to support new features in a specialized version of Mixbus, Ardour 7.0 sees support for I/O plugins. Plugins that run outside of the context of any track or bus. Preprocessor I/O plugins run before Ardour does any processing. You could use a plugin there to preprocess physical input or to receive data over a network. This is very useful for people doing live streaming because there's a standard called NDI. It stands for Network Device Interface, which is the stupidest name in tech ever, because what isn't a network device interface? But it's a protocol for transmitting video and audio over a network with extremely low latency. And actually, a friend of mine is doing this kind of stuff for a living, and he's been using Ardour for mixing. And there is an LV2 plugin as for NDI. So now you could use that plugin to pretty much plug Ardour directly into your live production, video production studio using the I/O plugins. At least that's how I understand it. I didn't try it because I'm not using NDI. I'm a one-man operation in this here studio. Control surfaces, control protocols, and an API to control selection by RID. I don't know what that is. Generic MIDI, re-enable the select function. Lots of stuff, blah, blah, blah. Push to pad tuning. Push to replicates most of Ableton's session view for triggering, etc. I guess that is also in conjunction with the Q stuff. New OSC messages to trigger scene cues and stop all cues. Yeah, that's a good thing. Stopping everything is panic. The manual has been significantly updated and extended for version 7.0. New sections, many changes, lots more screenshots. This work has mostly been done by Alexander Prokudin, and we anticipate the work to continue. Improvements, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So, let's call it quits. I mean, let's call it a day. Let's call it a live stream. This was meant to be a short overview and an announcement to let everybody know, in case they missed the memo, that Ardour 7 is here. Test it, report bugs, and have fun. Yeah, that was a stupid transition. Actually, I transitioned to the wrong thing. It should transition to this. So, actually, I'm gonna end the stream now. Huge thanks to everyone who is supporting me on Patreon and Liberapay. If anybody watching would like to help me keep making stuff like that and talking about open source audio, and not just that, actually just that, then you can go to patreon.com/Anfa or liberapay.com/Anfa, where you can like subscribe for a monthly donation, which is really cool because it helps me afford the coffee and, you know, painkillers for all the crashes. Yeah. And if you'd like to meet like-minded people and talk about open source software for music production, head over to my community chat at chat.anfa.xyz. There's hundreds of people there, including Paul Davis and many other open source audio developers, so you can ask them directly about various things and give them feedback and etc. Like, it's a great place to be if you are interested in open source software for audio. Yep, that's it. Oh, let's see if this will work. Okay, 20 seconds for out screen, because I need to put the, you know, the end screen things, the buttons, the stuff, the garbage. Oh wait, I have a, where is it? Where is it? Is it that? It's not that. Ah! Oh, it's this one. Okay, 20 seconds are gone. Bye.